So the first step really is to write down everything you already know about where you come from and who your ancestors are. You can do this by using the family tree at Findmypast. It's totally free to use, and you'll always have access to it regardless of whether you have a Findmypast subscription. So if there's anything you do this weekend, I really recommend you starting a family tree. This was filled out by your ancestors themselves. So while previous census forms will have been, they were actually collated into summaries by census officials. So what you see on Findmypast are these census officials' records, so it's not your ancestors' handwriting. In the 1911 census, it is, and it's fascinating to see the little extra information they can tell you.
I'm really passionate about family history, and it's not just a passion, it's a life. There are lots and lots of stories in every family, and with records like the ones available at Findmypast, you can really find the truth behind the story and bring your ancestors to life.
Findmypast is a fantastic resource. About 20 years ago, when genealogists would have to go to an archive and move from record to record and date order and hope that they might catch their ancestor's name, it was quite an arduous task, and I think people from that era would give their right arm for something like Findmypast at that point. So there are billions of records on Findmypast, and the worst thing you can do is get no results. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with experimenting and trying as many things as you can to try and get the answers that you need. And when you do get that ancestor, everything's been worth it.
I'm really passionate about family history because I just think it's amazing that historical events like the First World War can have an impact on such ordinary people, and then you learn how those changes have impacted your own life. I think it really brings history to life.
I think it has to be said that the British Newspaper Archive is one of the most exciting to be digitised in the most recent years. I mean, not only are census returns, parish registers, birth, marriage and death indexes really important for building your family tree, but newspapers really bring colour to your ancestors' lives in a way that very few other record sets can. And as you say, I mean, the figures are just staggering. So far we've got over 240 years worth of papers online, and they've been taken from 280 odd titles. We've got 9 million pages that are searchable, but over the next 7 years, we can expect to see up to 40 million pages be digitised. And there's a graph there that shows you sort of the rough period that we're looking at, and they tend to be concentrated in the late 19th century and the early 20th century. But from 1750, most of our major cities had at least one regional newspaper title. And over the course of the next 50 years, you find that there are several titles competing for business. So the aim of this project is really to make sure at least one title from each city is digitised, and that will give us nationwide coverage. So you should definitely find something.
I'm passionate about family history because our ancestors were real people, they lived real lives, and I love uncovering their stories.
The US is, of course, a country of immigrants, and so the passenger lists become absolutely essential records that you can use to try and trace a family's migration into the US. Sometimes you'll find collections that are separated by a specific period or a specific region. So these are collections from the Irish famine. So those are Irish families immigrating between 1846 and 1851. And you can see some of them came over in entire groups. Some of them might have come over with the father first or a couple of brothers and then sent for the wife and children later. So you don't always find a family coming in one family unit.
Family history is about stories. It's about our own personal, unique story. It's about ordinary people who are leading extraordinary lives through extraordinary times, and how we are the product of that extraordinary combination of events and people. There's been an absolute digital revolution in Irish family history, and Findmypast has been at the forefront of that. People talk a lot about how difficult Irish research is, and I think it's important we just start with that first. The Public Record Office in Dublin was one of the finest archives in Europe, but it was destroyed in 1922. And with that, we lost virtually all of our early 19th century census records. We lost an awful lot of church records, wills, court records. And then on top of that, we had a lot of bureaucratic incompetence, where they actually were destroying records because they weren't considered to be important. And that included all of our late 19th century census records. And other records were destroyed as well. So you come to the point now where you wonder whether is Irish research really possible at all. I mean, there's an example here, an image which you'll be able to see on screen of the destruction of our Public Record Office. So can we do it at all? Well, yes. And the way that Findmypast has found its way through that is two really important things. One, we've gone out and we've sourced new record sources which people traditionally don't use for research. And we've also established really firm partnerships with the major archives and libraries across the island of Ireland.
And we have so many Australian collections online. We have an incredible convict collection. They actually destroy their censuses in Australia, so they don't exist, but there are substitutes such as electoral rolls that are part of the online collection. There are incredible military collection, embarkation rolls for New Zealand. We have soldiers from the First World War, and passenger lists coming from Victoria and even into South Australia. And I will admit, I didn't think I had a convict until I typed the name into Findmypast and found out that my relative who stole a piece of cheese ended up down in Australia.
Sabaran has a metal index card, which you can access the index on Findmypast. He also, fantastically, has service records in 363 and 364. So you can see when a soldier attested, he filled the papers out twice. And these are both the papers here. One is very badly damaged because it's in 363. It's very badly charred. All the edges are missing. But the other one is in good condition. That's in 364. He signed one C. Sabaran, the other one Charles Sabaran, and what I did was compare those signatures with the signature in the autograph book, and it's the same man, undoubtedly. So gradually, as I say, I'm building a picture, getting more names, getting more photos. But as I say, the initial research steps were to draw up a list of all the individuals, put them on a spreadsheet, and then start filling in the gaps. Now, I just wish I'd done this today because it's so much easier. I mean, now it's all there online. It's all here with Findmypast.